Hey, so I want to feel like I'm been abandoning my little YouTube video, my YouTube channel, and I haven't posted anything in a while. So, um, I decided that I'm gonna do a video about witchcraft. And I'm gonna be working at the same time. Okay, so I came into I guess candle magic and stuff like that. I guess a while ago when I found out what my name meant. I kind of researched it, found out, that my name had some connections to the Yoruba tribe and the in Santeria. So I started to, just kind of like, I know we light candles for our loved ones that passed away. Just certain things that I just kind of started to pick up, especially lighting candles. Candles, crazy, because it was this incident when I was about, I want to say I was about 7 years old. And I had moved in with my aunt after my mom passed away. And she had us cleaning up our bedrooms. And she had lit candles. She had some lit candles. And I remember playing with the candles. I don't know why. I was just so attracted to them. Attracted to candles. But I remember some kind of way the candle dropped on the bed, lit the bed up. And my auntie, she ran in there. We was trying to put out the fire, but at the time I think I didn't know that nail polish remover was flammable. I think I threw some nail polish remover on it and it went up somehow. But it burnt the bed, but it didn't burn it so bad to where couldn't sleep in it or nothing like that. But that was like my first introduction to like candle work. Like, I just didn't at that age understand how our intent and all that stuff can actually bring things to life. Okay, so fast forward, I met a friend, this girl I went to school with, and she introduced me to a curio stone. So it really wasn't my first time going in one. It was my first time actually having a name to it. I just remember when I was younger, even with my ex-husband, going in, and like I'm saying, I was grown at this time when I started hanging with this friend, and going into the store with my ex-husband's mom, and she would go in this store that sold like incense and lotions and all that stuff. And she would go in the back, and she would always take me with her. And she would go in the back, they be in there, I just be looking around, and to me, I thought that it was just a incense and oil store. So we gon', she would come home. I ain't gonna fast forward too much, but she would come home with these lotions, and they would be smelling so good. Like, they were just amazing smelling. Like, it was scents that I had never smelled before, but they smelled really good. And she would wear these. She would wear them to sleep. She would wear that lotion to sleep. And sometimes the lotions and the oils would be so strong you could smell it out the house, but it was like a really nice smell. So I just thought, that she was going in these stores getting really nice perfumes and lotions made. It never occurred to me what she was doing in that back room. So we're gonna fast forward now. So I meet this friend after my divorce. And me and her start, kind of hanging out a little bit. And she tells me she's a witch. Well, I really don't, to be honest, I don't believe in that word, because it was a word that was used to describe women in derogatory terms. So at the time I was like, okay, people have their own religions. I didn't really know much about it. So she took me in this store, and turned out the store she took me to, it was many years later, y'all. The same store she took me to was the same store my ex-husband mom was taking us to. So we go in the store, and the owner, I think he called it a pharmacy or something. I think that was the name of it. But you go in this store, and they have all these different types of colored candles, and you got like beads and crystals and all that stuff. And I was like, this is pretty cool. None of it really frightened me. I asked him about he was like, what, you looking for anything in particular? I was like, well, at this time I was in the early stages of my divorce, having money problems. So I told him, I do you have anything for money problems? So he handed me this oil called Fast Money Oil. And then my friend, she was on the other side. She was like, yeah, girl, that stuff worked. I'm going to tell you. I put it all over me. She was like, I cleansed myself. She was giving me this whole rundown of the stuff that she do. And then I was like, okay, and I smelled it, and I had smelled it before. I had smelled Fast Money Oil when you go to like the beauty supply, and you see like them little oil bottles that they have sitting up there, perfume, the little 2 for $5 and $10 oils that they have sitting up there. And I think the one he let me smell was called Fast Money, but I think in the beauty supply, for some reason it had something to do with money too. So I was like, oh, this the same stuff. So then he asked me if I need anything else, and I was like, she was like, you need to get crystals. So I think that was my first time buying a pyrite crystal. It was called, at the time, I don't know if they still call it, but it was called Fool's Gold. And it's like a silver. I think I still got my crystals. And she said, help you attract money. The man was explaining to me, it was an older white man. He was explaining to me what you do with it and all this stuff. And then I went to check out, and it was an elderly, she went elderly. He was elderly. She was like, black don't crack. So she looked no older than maybe 60. But I bought it. I bought my stuff, and then my friend bought her stuff, and then she started to tell me a little bit more about, her rituals and, you know, the things she do with her men and all of this stuff, and it was fine. At the time I was dating somebody, and I was telling her about we was having a conversation about how feeling attractive and all this stuff. So she told me we're gonna go back to the store. And so we went to this store. We went back to the store, and we bought so many different oils, and I think one of them was called attraction oil or something like that. But it smelled so good. But it smelled a lot like an expensive perfume. It had like an amber smell to it. So I started to remember that my ex-husband mom used to put it in her lotions and stuff. So I started mixing the attraction and the Fast Money into like lotions and oils and all that stuff. And at the time I was a waitress. Y'all, when I tell you I would go to work, I didn't have a vehicle. Sometimes I would catch the bus to work and have to walk about a mile. And I started to, like, my body started to change. I started to lose weight. I started to get I had more energy to like exercise. But when I went to work, I was cashing out. I was making a lot of money, and it was helping me to keep up with my bills financially, you know, on my own with my kids. So one time I went back to the store, and I went by myself, and I was looking around, and at this time I had started my cake business, and I was a little, you know, y'all know I'm passionate about it, about building that skill. So I was like, you know, I want to get something that can help me with business. I want my business to grow. And he said, well, do you have good business practices? I said, yeah. I said, I think so. I was like, I don't, you know, I'm just starting out. You know, he was real personable, real, you know, talked to me about it. So they had something called Good Business. Bought Good Business, and with Good Business, it had more like a incense smell. So I would just put it in my little oil burners, you know, the little 99-cent oil burners you can buy from the Dollar Tree. And I remember I didn't have a car, and it's kind of fuzzy, but I went up to Walmart with my aunt. And this girl, her car was broke down. And no, I had got a car by then. This girl, her car was broke down. And we went in the store, we did our shopping, we came back out, and they were still sitting there trying to figure out what they were gonna do. And so I asked her, do y'all need help? And me and my aunt connected her car to mine, and we got her car jump started. So she was grateful. She was like, thank you so much. We know how, blase. And then out the blue, my aunt was like, you got kids? And she was like, yeah. She was like, my niece do cakes. She do custom cakes. The only cakes I was doing at the time was the traditional You know, the red velvet with the red velvet crumbles and the nuts on the side, and the chocolate cake with the drizzle. I was doing all the basic stuff. So then the girl was like, yeah. She was like, we actually came up here to get a cake, but they had messed up my baby cake. They had messed up my baby cake. And she was like, do you think you can do me a cake? So I was like, yeah. She was like, you think you can have it done by this evening? I was like, yeah. Y'all, I did. I'm a put the picture up of the cake. My first time doing a custom cake, and I loved every minute of it. It was like it was like exhaling. It was everything that it brought me to life because of the things I had already been going through, you know, in relationships and finances and my kids. At the time, when my kids were younger, I didn't understand ADHD and autism and all that stuff. So that kind of stuff, it was like heavy on me. So I started to really, after I did her cake, people started coming to me. I think I started doing like sheet cakes and cookies and all that stuff, and I was like, dang, it's the oil doing it. Now I have learned something, you know, through my years of all this stuff. Now we can say that it was the oil that was doing it, but it could have been me in a good spot. It was me in a higher vibration, higher mindset, manifesting the stuff that I want. If y'all familiar with manifestation, where you get into the energy of, yes, I can do this, yes, I can have this, yes, I am, you know. And so it was like I started getting orders and stuff, and then the oil was gone. And I think I started to, my order started to dwindle, and life happens and all that stuff. So I went back to this store by myself. And this time I was just looking around. I had got off the train. The kids, I think they were, had something going on or something. So I had a little extra time. I got off the train, walked on over there to the curio store. I don't know if y'all from Atlanta. I don't know if y'all familiar with, like, not Little 5 Points, but 5 Points, where it had those stores. If you're familiar with, like, I think the Rainbow is the only store that was there. I used to work at the Rainbow, but it was the only store that's still standing. But I think on the other side now, they have like a vintage collector's shop or something like that. They done changed it, but it used to be like a whole little, you would go inside and it was like a whole plaza in the inside, and they had nails and wings and pizza and people selling purses and all that stuff in there. It was old Atlanta. So if you walked on up past that little plaza, you had these and some of them I think may still be there, but you had like some incense stores, you had the candle stores, and then you had that curio store. And I remember, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, but my brother, he actually had a beauty salon right next to one of those, or in the same little area as that, where the curio store was. So I went in there. by this time I had fell in love. I had fell in love with the person I was talking to. And looking for things that have something to do with love, and I love potions. Cause at this point I my friend, she done told me about stuff. So I picked up this oil called Jezebel. Only thing I knew about Jezebel was what I had learned in Sunday school, the Bible. In my mind, what I thought it was like, what it was like seduction. Like you become sexy, you know, like you are, you know, you have more of a sexy aura. When I bought the oil, the lady asked me behind the thing before I bought it, she said, "You sure you want to get this?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." Said, "Yeah, I think so." I said, "I'm trying to do something special for my partner." And she gave me a look, and she rung it up. She didn't say nothing else. So then when I started, you know, using this oil, it was, oh my God, the smell. Like, y'all, a lot of this stuff that we wear as perfumes, I don't know, they are really close to some of that stuff I bought in that store. But I remember how people used to tell me how it smelled so good and all this stuff, and it got me interested in dancing, so stripping actually. So at this point I was fit, like my body, I think I was like jogging every day, sometimes twice a day, 3 times a day. I had lost a lot of weight. I had got down to 127, which is the weight that I was in like 9th or 10th grade, y'all. So I felt like my body was amazing. I hadn't been that small since I joined. I actually had joined the Army back in 2005, something around there. So I was in the best condition. So I was like, you know what? I'm about to speed this money thing up. I'm about to dance. And that's, if you go back through my videos, y'all gonna hear the story about the time where I tried to be a stripper. Lord, epic fail. But I did feel like when I used that oil, it made me more confident and all this stuff. So we gonna get back to the witchcraft stuff. So through this, you know, talking to my friend at that time and learning more about, you know, the stuff that she does and the stuff I can buy at the store, I started to learn a little bit more about Abraham Hicks. Actually, before Abraham Hicks, it was Seth. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Seth, but it was sort of the first. Okay, so Abraham Hicks channels a spiritual entities, and they teach us that basically you got all the power as a human being. You know, like if you know, feeling down or whatever, then you want to try to get yourself back up to the highest vibration, because that's when you bring in the best things in your life. So she was all positive. And Seth was like the first one. I think Seth, they had like videos and like recordings of Seth talking Seth was a channeler. I think her for some reason I want to say the lady's name was Janice. I can't remember her last name. But Seth even talked about a little bit about magic and things like that, and how to make things, appear in your life and all that stuff. So I was on the metaphysical path. I was learning a lot about that stuff, and it all felt like it was all coming together. I was healthy. I was happy emotionally. My money had got better, until I started to see that the person that I was dating didn't want anything serious. So I would go from these really highs where everything was like going amazing for me, and then these really lows where like debt collectors and bills and stuff was showing up. In the meantime though, I became more active in my community. I started to do a lot of things for my kids' schools. I did a lot of things for the churches that were around me. I volunteered. Like I don't know if that was something that helped me get into it, but I think it was the confidence of it all. I started to be more into giving, more into just being there for people, especially in my community. So let's see, how can we go from there? Over time, I stopped going to the curio store. I actually started to get like solid positions. I wasn't waitressing anymore. The jobs I were getting were hourly jobs that required for me to, be at work all day and, things like that. So it kind of phased out for me, going to the curio store. But that was my first introduction to what people would consider witchcraft. Okay. So Instagram. Learning about metaphysics, I started to find my algorithm falling more on the things that I was interested in. Learning how to pray, because even though I was doing the oils and stuff, it was not uncommon to me. My ex-husband, so the thing about my ex-husband's family is I was living with them when I was 17. I graduated from high school when I was 17. So I lived with them from the age of like 17 to maybe about 19 and 20 when I had my first daughter. So it wasn't uncommon to me to see those things mixed together, and it's still not uncommon, especially in the black families, to see things like that come together. Hold on one second. All right, so I'm gonna have to work and talk at the same time, y'all, because I got this stuff. But one of the things I realized through it was, even though it was a very common thing in black households and Hispanic and certain household to do certain things like that, it was supposed to be kept secret. And one thing y'all know about me, I'm open-minded. So started to, burn my candles and stuff. When people ask me questions about it, I answer the questions. And then I got into tarot cards. Tarot cards was something I got interested in because I remember going down to like 5 points, and the people you know ask you if you want them to read your cards and all that stuff and tell your future and all that stuff. So I got interested in it. I started reading up on it. What do the cards mean? How do I connect? How do I connect that to the person I'm talking to? I just learned about it. One thing about me, I have learned that things like that, occult things and things about history and things about stuff we not supposed to know, conspiracy theories, stuff like that, it interests me because I think it's my zodiac sign, but I really be like, why they hiding it? I want to know why they hiding what they think gonna happen if you find out about it. Like, oh, people know how to do it now. So, it was always kind of an irrational fear of things. That's another thing about me. I don't have many fears like that. And yeah, I just wasn't afraid of stuff like that. I remember me and my ex-husband had got our first apartment together, and sleep one night, saw a entity at the foot of our bed, woke him up screaming, crying, said we need to leave, called the leasing office the next day, and I was like, did somebody die in that apartment? And I think I was the only one who seen it. He didn't see it. But that's when I knew, like, this was before tarot cards and oils and candles and all that stuff. Like, I started to realize, oh, I'm kind of seeing stuff that other people can't see that I know. I'm in my sound mind to see and know. One of the things I had actually kind of slowed down on talking about it a little bit. But when I was younger, I used to have dreams, and I used to tell my aunts and family members and friends and stuff about the dreams that I have or whatever. I didn't know that lucid dreaming was a thing. I didn't know the word for it, but I did know that as a child, it's this part of that you wake up in your dream, but you're not awake, but you're awake, and you can kind of move around freely in your dream, and you can, if you're having a bad dream. And I think, to be honest, I think God showed me how to be able to do this in my dream, because when I was younger, I used to have a lot of bad dreams. Especially after my mom passed, I didn't feel, I don't know, child dealing with grief. Okay, smooth past that. So, I started to get the ability to, instead of screaming and getting afraid in my dreams, I started to learn how to talk to whatever was in my dream trying to scare me, and letting it know you don't scare me, and just being able to, if I needed to get away from the thing, I knew how to maneuver in a dream. I don't know if anybody if you're listening, you're familiar with lucid dreaming. You know what I'm talking about. Alright, so I started to have dreams, y'all. The person that I was talking to, I started to have these wild dreams, real wild dreams and it wasn't really like me. Like I had, had dreams, intimate dreams and stuff like that before, but some of the stuff was like crazy wild. So I started to find out more about tarot card readings. And another thing that kind of got me interested in it is, if you click on YouTube, and I was trying to do the compatibility stuff. Am I compatible with this person, my sign? And then I think I started to learn more. If y'all are familiar with Santos Bernocchi, I don't know if I'm saying his name wrong, and I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. But he teaches the connection of the Bible to the body, and how worship is, how that is actually connected to the astrology and the sun and the planets and all that stuff. And it's really interesting. If y'all ever get a chance, you want to start your spiritual journey, I suggest you start with Seth, you start with Abraham Hicks, and you start with Santos. They are going to kind of help you to wake up a little bit. And but at the same time, like, I was still really attached to church. So I think I actually was very traditional as far as going to church on a regular basis. I would take my kids. We went most Sundays. My kids were in the Sunday school program. Yeah, I really enjoyed my church. I still enjoy my church. I still love the energy of church. I was just talking to somebody. I better start on the cake, y'all. I was just talking to somebody last night about how, people be talking about what other people be doing in church and stuff. And I was like, well, they there for the wrong reasons. Because, that ain't really what you're supposed to be there for. You're supposed to be there to heal, and tarot also taught me synchronization. How a lot of us are kind of, sort of, when we are in the same spaces, most of the time, most of us are, we share some type of connection. And that's when I kind of got on the we all are one thing, because I started to recognize that. I started to recognize, like, when my friend was having issues in her relationship, I was having issues in mine, and everybody was, so I started to see how everything was connected. Alright, so let me see. This thing, witchcraft. I had the guy that I was talking to, I think he was telling me how he was having problems and all that stuff. And one thing for sure, and I want to be clear about this, because most people think that when a woman is lighting candles and all of that stuff, that she is doing something to hurt or harm somebody. He was telling me about money issues he was having and little stuff like that. And this is before I decentered men, but I, by this point, knew how to set intentions and direct them to people so they can become blessed. I remember my cousin, he had posted something, or I don't know if he posted or sent it in a text message or something one time, and I lit a candle for him, and he was like, thank you, cuz if you been praying for me and all that stuff. And to me, that's really what it was. I learned my Bible. I knew, the scriptures I need to read. If I didn't, I looked it up and say, how do you deal with grief? What the Bible say about grief? Look it up on Google or YouTube or whatever, and then you find that scripture, and I will recite that scripture over whatever the situation was. I still don't think that that's witchcraft, because we go to church. Like, you can go to church. If it ain't a Sunday or Monday, you go to church right now and say, Sister Smith, I need you to pray for me because this, and that going on. Deacon Smith, Sister Smith is going to lick her finger, flip through that book. She gonna find what you need, and she gonna pray for you, and she gonna speak tongues over you, and she gonna touch your head, and anything that you've been going through, whatever the energy is, you leave out of there, you feel better, and you start to manifest better things. I don't know if it is a collective, is it the fact that somebody is doing it for you, or the fact that the person that you actually just feel better about it and you manifest it into your own life, but whatever it is, I started to see the difference in things. I started to find really, really expensive candle magic makers. And I was like, okay, I want to get myself out of a certain situation in my life. How do I manifest that? How do I set my intentions in a way where I get myself out of these situations? And I lit the candles. The candles work. Whether it was the person who I was buying the candles from, her intentions, or my intentions behind it, my life started to improve. And it started to improve like I started to raise my credit score. I got a better paying job. I had found this company, if y'all familiar with Lexington. It's like a credit repair company. I paid them, and then I had somebody, I don't know if they was a scammer or what, but they called me and was like, they do credit repair. And it wasn't like it was a company. They had a company, but I'm saying I haven't heard of the company again. And they told me they can help me with my student loans, and they showed me how to, fix my credit. And before I knew it, I had like a 790 credit score. But it wasn't magic in the way that we think of. You snap your fingers and you went from this to this in one day. It was magic in the sense of I would get these intuitive nudges to go and find this company that just emailed me. The company emails me, and then I take that chance on paying that company, and that company helps me with my credit. Or I take this chance on applying for a certain job, and helps me with 444. Just came up. And it helps me with, help me find a better job. And then if I need a car or I need a financial assistance, like little stuff like that. It's not magic in the sense of things just happen. You got to do the work for it. And whether you light the candle for it or not, it's just the candle makes you more focused on making sure that things go right for you. It's almost like it puts a green light in your life to be like, and see, y'all, I didn't do no hexes, curses, nothing negative towards anybody. I would buy, like, when I would buy at this time, I was dealing with a player, so it was kind of, mentally it was breaking me down. So I would buy love candles, but I would put my name inside the love candles, and I would perform. And then I taught my daughters, because my daughters, growing up, especially middle school, they deal with a lot of insecurity. So I taught them how to, become their own goddesses, look inside themselves and how to have that confidence inside. And but through using things like roses and water and candles and things like that. And all it does is, okay, so in this thing in manifesting, it is something where you say, I am this. So say you want to be a race car driver, right? And say, I am a race car driver, right? You don't have no race car. You don't have no team. You ain't never been to a racetrack before. But when you say, I am a race car driver, and then you take something out of your physical reality and dedicate that to that, it's almost like it solidifies that reality. It's like checkpoint. And it after a while you forget about the candle. And that's all I can really speak on, y'all. I don't really know about the other stuff like bones and going to the graveyard. I don't know nothing about that. I am more about how I can improve my life, because I learned in college, we learned something that was kind of stuck with me about paradigms. All of us walking around with these paradigms, these set of rules that we have for ourselves, and the way that we conduct life, and the way somebody else is experiencing their paradigm is not necessarily the same way that you will. You made it. Hold on. So, where was I? Sorry, I forgot where I was at. So yeah, I just believe that those candles you light and all of that stuff, things like that, reciting those scriptures, praying. Shit, we can get into praying when you drop down on your knees and you thank God for what you have, and and you intentional about it. God, thank you so much for what you gonna do for me, or what you. I'm thanking you now. Even in church, they tell you claim it now. You thank God for what God has already done for you. You know, so that is really my premises in behind it. When I learned more, I started to learn a little bit more about it, and then I started to realize, okay, it's a light and a dark side to it. You know, it is people out here that go to the graveyard and take bones and slice up animals and all that stuff, but I never, just because, hold on, we're gonna keep it there. Okay, so I'm doing a video about how I feel about witchcraft and all that stuff. It's okay. I don't think you did either. I don't like you. But it ain't bad. Okay, I'm back. Had my little baby distractions. I still feel like they babies, y'all. So, I'm gonna get back on. I don't know where I was. I'm just gonna start from somewhere. Okay. So normally, when you are, praying, and especially when people say they be speaking in tongues and all that stuff, like, that is like the old. And you know something else? It bothers me that in 2026 we have to act like we don't have roots in our African, indigenous, Hispanic, ancestry like that. We gotta act like, we have to try and act like our family doesn't have our, special traditions, or, little things that that maybe not every family do, but some families from certain cultures might do. And we have to act like it's something wrong with that, or we supposed to be behind it or something, or I don't know. That bothers me. And but anyway, yeah, so when I started doing tarot, I started started tarot as like, okay, I want to see if I can read, the situation in other people, because initially when I bought the cards, I was doing myself. But when I started the tarot, I think I started to do myself. I think I did my hairdresser, and when she told me that everything I had said was going, the way that she said it was going, then that's when I was like, okay, well, I got, I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit in this field. Let's see. Oh. So then, the cats thing, y'all. The cats thing. I love all animals. I ain't gonna lie, I love all animals. But when I lived in those apartments on MLK, my neighbor, she would rescue cats. Around this time, We were kind of like the beginning years of my children coping and me coping with the divorce. So one of the ladies, her cat had some kittens. They asked me could they have them, so I got them each one kitten each. And yeah, we had one of them went back because we stayed so close to her. He just went back to her house, and the other two decided to stick with us. Eventually, they had kittens, and we ended up keeping one of them. Now my cats are calico. Calico is a type of cat that is it has multicolors. Her mother, my cats, their mom was actually like light gray, and she was really pretty. She was light gray, all of that stuff. Now, I didn't have a dog in these apartments because we weren't supposed to have pets really in the apartments, but there was no way for me to take care of a dog in our apartment and raising 3 small kids on my own, whereas raising cats, it was a little bit less effort because they were easy to house break, and I had my neighbor to help me whenever we had to go somewhere. We would just take the cats down there to her, and when we came back, we get the cats back. All right, so back at the cats, we get the cats back. They was really easy animals, and my male cat had bonded to me like a lot because I didn't even realize that male cats were so affectionate. Like they kind of require a lot more affection than the female cats. Like they really like to be held, and like they are needy, a lot more needy. So I got attached to them. But because of the nature of like how I grew up and all that stuff, like I was used to dogs, so I kind of trained them in a way like how I would train dogs. Like I would whistle for them to come. They learned that. They learned sit down and come here and all that little stuff like that, just because that was how I was kind of used to talking to like pets and things like that. So they caught on. And back to my male cat, he actually became more in the energy of like a dog. Like he would walk us to the store, sit there and wait, walk us back. He was hyper protective of the house. Like just overall, they was fun pets. I didn't know that people had such a offense to cats like that until I started to invite my family over. And they were like, I don't like cats. So I was like, cats are, originally Egyptian animals. Like, so that's one thing I realized, that cats are not you can't, like, they're what's the word, they kind of more like teenagers. Like they this man explained it in a way where he was like, you know, they require your consent to touch them or to be bothered and all that stuff. And I think people who have an offense to that about cats is that they don't like having boundaries. They want to be able to, you know, do what they want to do to people when they want to do it, or animals, you know. So I think that is actually like a social construct, and maybe need to be studied. I don't know. But yeah, hold on. Okay, so I'm back. And I usually don't be making my videos this long, y'all. Be saying I don't be wanting no hour videos. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this on up. My daughter friend asked me one day, he was like, Mom, well, my daughter did. She's like, Mom, he want to know if you're a witch. And I said, and I explained to him, no, I don't consider myself that, because that was a derogatory term used to describe smart women who took it upon themselves to heal themselves and not depend on you know, the government or the men in the or they just used it as a way to punish women, you know. And you know, that was the original word. It wasn't bitch, it was witch, you know. So that was the thing that gets me about that. So I always say I would never call myself that, because I know people be calling themselves, you know, the B word and all that stuff, but I just don't want to label myself something that is clearly designed to be a negative word. So if anything, a healer, you know, a praying woman, what is it? A worshiper. Like, you can call me a lady who light candles. But that word just feels like a cuss word. So I noticed after my divorce, hold on, y'all. She whining. Okay. Yeah, so, you know, I just feel like it's such a bad word, because it really don't describe the sovereignty of these women who were healing people and, you know, praying and laying hands on, and the original doulas, and, you know, all the special things that women have contributed to the scientific and medical community. It was kind of it can be stripped away with that word. So yeah, that's how I feel about that word. But yeah, I started to notice that maybe a few years ago, the deeper I got into my spirituality and my spiritual journey, I started to tap into what can I say? I started to connect with my passed over loved ones. And then I also was grieving. So I wanted to, connect to them. And then my dreams started to get a lot more vivid. And then when I really, really started to do like tarot card readings out loud for the public, then that's when people started, kind of throwing, what they call it, throwing sticks, throwing rocks and hiding their hands. But yeah, I just wanted to explain my little journey, because sometimes I connect with people, or I meet people, and then they look me up, they do research on me and all that stuff, and then they see like, oh, she line candles, she make candles, she read tarot cards, so she do this and she do that, and I feel like they get into a negative place with who I am, and I think movies or what they done experience with other people, they kind of think that that's what I'm doing, and it's not. I'm not doing none of that stuff. My life is not like that. So I think sometimes people are curious, and I don't know, they just get what is the word? You just get a misconception of people who start to learn more about the other side and stuff. So I don't know, I feel like I'm just running on about it, y'all. But yeah, that was my journey into, it's a part of it. It's my journey into realizing magic, and then how y'all gonna pray for a miracle? Pray for a miracle and not believe in magic. That's it. That's all.